Hey, what's up? This is Paul Solt from Super Easy Apps, and we're going to talk about a few different things. So I just got a notice on iTunes Connect that finally Apple has caught on to my apps not being updated. Now, this is one of the hard things about being an app developer. I launched a bunch of apps many years ago. I updated them, I think, for iOS 7, and then I haven't updated them since. And since then, we've got new form factors. So the iPhone X, we've got the iPad Pro, and there's different sizes. It's not just the 9.7 inch. So now I have to sort of deal with those types of issues. So in this video, we're going to get started with updating the app. Right now, we've got some glitches. I've got the UI rendering. Now, this was all before collection views existed. This was manually coded based on sort of just doing a lot of math and trying to get things right. But I always assumed that it would be a fixed width. And so I assumed that it would be an iPhone 5 size screen. And that's what I coded for because it worked at the time, and it doesn't work. Now, currently the app doesn't support rotation other than sort of flipping over, and that only works, I think, on the iPad. And if I boot up the iPad, let's see what that looks like. Let's go for the 12 and run that. So jumping over to iTunes, I just got this email right before Valentine's Day that's saying that my app's going to be removed. So I have 30 days. So the Artwork Evolution app needs to get updated before then. Otherwise, it's going to be removed from the store because it doesn't currently work on iOS 11. And that's kind of what I'm trying to work on. All right. So there's a number of things still to fix up. The tutorial screens are here, and we can sort of just jump through them. So I've got a collection view that I sort of swipe between, and that actually doesn't look fully correct. I think it's not going to the edges, so that might be something else to update. I'll mark that down. So that would be, let's put a to-do section just so I can keep track of it. So that was the tutorial screen on iPad 12.9. All right, so that needs to be tweaked or something in order for that to work. All right, so it's good to have notes as you're working on this. So I'm going to have to update that. So let's jump back into that iPad. And I got rid of my one screen that was a little bit cumbersome and hard to understand. There's a lot of background rendering, so I've got to clean this up because there's too many statements. Like I know that it's doing rendering, but I don't need to know because it's getting in the way of me actually debugging and fixing issues. So here, I was actually just tweaking this, and one of the things that I had turned off, and this was sort of so before I had a border frame on iPad, and that's kind of how the Photos app. So basically I mimicked everything I saw in the Photos app, and I figured out how to make it work on iPad and iPhone. And so I had these frames, but that kind of feels a little dated now, and Apple doesn't do that anymore. So I'm going to get rid of those frames. We don't need them. And we can turn those off. So I've got some constants in here. I'm just going to set that to 0 and be done with it. I've got a bunch of junk in here that I need to clean up. So I'm going to be sort of taking a look at that and doing a pass. So that was one of the first things I wanted to remove. And again, we're in Objective-C, so I need those semicolons in order for this to work. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm basically going to change the way this looks. Now, the other thing I'm having issues with is the number of columns or the size of the elements. These should really space out to fit. And on this design, I currently have a space on the left. So you can count there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spacing. So those spacings, we're going to have to do some math. Now, I've already sort of worked on this a little bit, and I came up with this. So basically what I need to do is get the size of the device, and then I have to subtract the number of spacings, and there's one additional space based on the number of columns. So if I want 5 columns, then I have to have 6 spacings. Now I have a fixed size for that, which is defined somewhere. It's somewhere around 38. And then the number of columns I have to divide by to get the thumbnail width. So when we do that, I'll get rid of this old statement, and then we'll run it and see how that looks. There's a lot of old code in here, and I don't want to fix everything, but I just need to get it working again. So I'm going to have to sort of pick and choose what I update and what I clean up. So now that is looking a lot better. We still have the temporary thumbnail, which is Evo, which is a little cartoon character I drew for this. And one of my friends colored it in for me. So that is now updated for iPad. We have to do the same type of thing for the iPhone. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Went through some of the math, figured out that I initially thought there was going to be one less column, but then I didn't realize that my actual logic actually draws that initial column based on the original design on iPhone. I think they might have changed that since then, but I'm just going to keep it with this because I don't want to do more work. I'm trying to keep this as minimal as possible. So we're going to get rid of that. It's not going to be any more a fixed width. We'll go ahead and run that, and all of my crazy graphics code in here is going to figure out how to draw everything. I don't want to go back into that because I know it was a mess. Okay, so that was the wrong device. Let's put this now on the iPhone X and run it, and we should see something different. And then while that's going, I'm just going to clean up this code. We don't need all of these old comments. Looks crazy with all of this. All right. And that's looking pretty good. So there might be a little extra space depending on the layout, and that is just going to be on the right side, but that's not a major issue. So it's just a matter of having that width, and ideally it would be nice to switch this over to a collection view, but I think that's going to be a lot more work because there's a lot of gnarly code in here, so I'm not going to worry about that. That is good enough to go with for now, and let's just clean up some of these comments, get rid of some of this. This is still kind of really messy code. I wrote this probably 8 years ago. So it's been a while since I've touched this code base, and it's a lot of math in here. It's hard to get working. Right now, it also doesn't rotate, so we're not going to support the rotations. I hope Apple doesn't reject me for that if I just support the one rotation, so it goes up and down. We'll find out, because I really don't want to add that. If I do need to add that, then I'm going to have to make the number of columns a bit more dynamic. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And where are we now? So we cleaned up this. We're going to have no border width, and pretty much I think I can get rid of the style. I don't think I need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that, and hopefully things still work, because everything's now going to use this same default style. I'm not going to draw these borders anymore, so I'll just set that to 0 for now. So if we need iPad landscape support, we might need to change the number of columns. All right, so that's looking a lot nicer. And you can see the joy of working with scroll view when I had no idea what I was doing. So that's always fun. All right, so that should fix up that issue. Everything should still work. Let's just test it on iPhone. So that's looking pretty good. And then I'll test it on the iPad, big one, and it should look pretty good. All right, and then if I wanted to just make sure things are working, let's just select 2 of these images, evolve them. That'll create a brand new selection of images, and we can get some different craziness. Let's go with something like this and see what we can get. So this just creates totally abstract images, and I've used it to design some pretty crazy things. And if we just keep going, we can get and diverge a little bit from that initial pattern. So it's just abstract art, but it's kind of cool. Not everything looks great, and that's the sort of the beauty of this, is that it's really up to you if you like a certain look or style. And then if you do, so let's say we like this one better, to get rid of some of that noise. Start to find some other patterns in here. So it seems to be working pretty well. The other thing I want to do is clean up some of these render operations. I believe I do have Man, it's doing a lot of printing. All right, so I'm going to pause that. I think this is a debug log. It doesn't need to exist. I'm just going to get rid of it. All right, so we got a bunch of stuff in here. Let's look for the update. Okay, render width. Another debug statement we don't need. All right, let's find this queue size. So I'm just trying to squash some of these print statements because they are getting in the way of finding anything. I don't need to know what the queue size is. It works. So this is sort of multi-threaded. It's not very good. I really should have designed it a little bit differently. The architecture wasn't great. I do have an idea of how to fix it up so it is at least a little bit better, but we're going to have some issues. So that's going to clean up a lot of the gobbledygook, but there's still a lot of stuff. Ooh. We're in an Objective-C file, so there's 2 code files for each thing. And somewhere in here, I've got a bunch of print statements, so just a dlog. Don't need that. Don't need that. There's just all these print statements that I don't need. Kind of have a singleton model here. I don't know if I'd do it exactly the same. I just don't need all these messages. So one of the mistakes as a beginning programmer that you might have is just to have print statements everywhere. The problem with that is then once you're trying to work on other features or you're trying to do a maintenance update or anything like that, you've got all this debug, and it would be great if I had some additional logging levels. So like this stuff's not bad, but I have no way to turn off the different levels except I can turn them all off or I can't. And so it would be good to have this type of stuff in here. I might keep this one just so that I know how many things are loaded, but I don't really need all of these things. There's just too many, and some of this could be useful for debugging purposes, but the app is pretty stable, crossing my fingers, so I should be able to, as long as it's not like an error, I should be able to get rid of some of those warning messages. Now, the other thing I have to fix up is the tutorial screen, so I want to get into that as well. And every time I basically quit the app from Xcode, it tells me that I have a crash, which is kind of annoying. All right, so we still have some new... Just look for dlog. I think that's going to be our best bet. Going to guess most of these we don't need. This one is on save. Kind of useful information. Where it's saved is kind of useful if I never need to find the file, so I'll keep those 2. Oh, I like that one. Something about these black and whites I just really enjoy. We get some really interesting patterns. This one's kind of cool. You got that sort of on-off sort of shape Boolean logic. We've got two different things sort of clashing together. I like it. So what I can do is I can save this to my saved album. Then we can just evolve this and see what kind of variations we get from it. Some really interesting patterns. All right, so where else? I might keep that one. Don't think we need this one. Just a lot. I think I have some of this in here because of the threading issues that I was running into. Yeah, it's looking a little more symmetrical. That's kind of cool. All right, it's doing delete image for key in the image cache. This is where a lot of my print statements are coming from. Not sure what that's about. I don't think it's a problem anymore. So this is where you really want unit tests to just verify that you're not like totally breaking something. All right. I'll keep one of these in here. And like old code like this, like, yeah, it might be good, but probably not anymore. So I'm probably just going to trash it. That error looks kind of good. Not sure why I have like a duplicate here, so maybe I'll just get rid of that. I think that should overwrite, so... I think we got rid of that one. Got all of these print statements. All right, so that's that. What did we get? We got some unit tests. I do have some unit tests, but I don't believe they work anymore because I changed... I like that save one. I don't think I need this one. Just showing me everything that I have. I don't even think that's important. Let's just get rid of it. Let's not just comment it out. And I'm just going to try and clean this up a little bit more. So let's just go through here. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. Children are already in evolution code. Could be. Got some kind of duplicate save. I'll keep that one there. That one actually looks useful and hopefully won't happen all the time. All right, I think this we don't need. We were getting a lot of print statements from that after the evolution, so that's what it was saying, like the delete stuff. So let's get rid of that. Request to render. I don't want that one either. Don't want that one. What is this? I don't think we need that. That looks maybe useful. All right, so we've cleaned that up a little bit. And one of the other things that I did do, and I can't see if it's ready to build on my iPad yet. I think I needed to invite myself to the build, but I didn't see an email come through from Apple. So I was trying to do test flight on my iPad to see if I could install this, but I'm not seeing the email. All right, so we've added this. I've cut down a little bit on some of the amounts. Oh man, oh boy. There's a lot in the image scroll view. So you can see I've got a ton of statements that I don't care about anymore. All right, so I'll probably work on that a little bit more. Let's work on what is next. So that seems to be working. That seems to be working, which is cool. I really like that. That is super fun. And so I saved a couple of these. So these are my saved album. And I can take any of these and I can continue evolving it so I can keep creating variations of this. And it's going to do some render. It looks like it's, for some reason, rendering the lower portion first. And it almost looks like Saturn's rings now, which is kind of cool. Just get some really interesting patterns. This one's kind of fun. This one's also kind of fun. It's starting to look more like a chessboard. This one's just super noisy. So what's cool is then what we can do is we can go to one of these, and let's say I like this one. I can get a higher resolution, so I'll render this, and we'll cross our fingers and see if this feature is working. So the UI is not great, but it should work. So it's going to render, and while that's spinning, it's thinking, and it's doing a lot of calculations. Now, I'm in the debug build, so this is actually going to run slower on a device, and because of the amount of mathematical expressions that are evaluated, I really need to run this in release mode to make it work fast. And so once I do a release build, it will render a lot faster, but this is just debug, so I can save to my photo library. I don't remember if we fixed that. Did we fix that last time? Let's just save the original and hit OK. So now we should get that image out here. Photos. Great. There's our new fun image. Can I airdrop from a simulator? I have no idea. That would be super cool. It sees my iPad. I don't know if it sees this guy. I think I'd have to sign into my email or something in order to share this. So that is the iPad. All right, so we've fixed that up a little bit. We cleaned up some debug statements. In the next video, I think I'll stop here. So that was a little sort of maintenance, cleaning up things, making it so there's not all of these log messages everywhere. In the next video, I want to go over trying to fix our tutorial screen. And if we go here, play tutorial, it's just not working. And I think even on iPhone X, I wasn't able to complete it because it can't go over far enough. The math is a little bit wrong for this, so we're going to have to take a look at that. So I'll do that in the next one, and hopefully with that, I think that's going to... This moves it over, but we can no longer complete the tutorial, so now we're kind of stuck. So that's not a good user experience. I'm going to have to fix that. So we'll take a look at that in the next developer update, and if you have any questions about this or iTunes Connect where I I've now got a new build out for this. I don't have any other beta testers except myself. So I submitted the build last time I filmed one of these dev videos, so last week. And then hopefully I can get this on my iPad. It just wasn't working last time I tried. It says there's been one invitation, but maybe I need to resend the invitation and see how that goes. So I'll see you in the next video. And if you have any questions, just comment down below. If you're confused about Objective-C or Swift, or you want to see something a little bit different, just let me know. I'm using these sort of to talk about things that I'm working on. There's another app that I want to talk about that we're working on for Mac, and that's been kind of a ongoing project. It was at first sort of like a simple utility. You've probably seen me use it before. It's my super easy timer. So we're right now trying to, and I'll probably talk about that in a future one, but I want to focus on getting Artwork Evolution updated before Apple pulls it off the App Store. So we're trying to update the fonts in this one. I'll talk about that in another one of these dev videos. All right, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye.